welcome. You're watching our Going Digital series. I'm Shweta Kothari. We have a very special guest joining us today, all the way from Israel, Itai Green. He's the founder of Innovate Israel. He's also the CEO of the company. And we're talking about innovation in the times of COVID, and obviously trying to get a feel of where the industry, the startup industry, is going to head this year onward. Itai, thanks very much for taking time out. I suppose it's very early morning in Israel right now.
It's 8 a.m. and it's my pleasure to be here with you.
Right. Now, before we dive in, I want to understand from you, what do you do at Innovate Israel? If you can, give us a quick breakthrough of what your day looks like at Innovate Israel and what's the larger purpose?
So Innovate Israel was founded a little bit more than 4 years ago in order to support big corporations' effort to stay relevant. And when I'm saying stay relevant, it means that big corporations nowadays have to innovate with third parties, like startups, like academy, like partnering with other companies in order to stay relevant. Otherwise, they're not relevant anymore. And that's what we do. We support those corporations in this effort, which is not trivial, it's not easy, but it is something they have to do. And it's a consulting company.
Right. And, we have seen sort of a shift during COVID. We've seen a lot of jitters within the startup industry with respect to innovation. We know that there needs to be greater innovation now. And I remember, going through one of your videos for The Economist, where you talked about the need to harness the potential of technology if you need to move forward and come out of the COVID the situation that has led to stagnation in innovation. Could you elaborate on how COVID has changed the way we innovate, how technology needs to be harnessed greater and more now?
I think the major impact of the COVID, and it's a really major impact, is the impact on the big corporations, not necessarily on the startups, on the corporations. Because let's say before the COVID, there were companies, but not that many, that truly realized that they have to innovate. They truly realized the value of innovation, of external innovation for their future, in order to survive. And thanks to the COVID, everything moved really fast. Not only digitalization processes and so on, but also innovation, deep understanding of the corporations with regard to the importance of open innovation, of this partnering with third parties in order to stay relevant. And this level of understanding is now really high, and this is only thanks to the COVID. I think it could take 10 years for big corporations to realize they have to innovate with third parties, and now, thanks to the COVID, it took only a year. And I think that digital effort is now moving to innovation effort. And this is really what the COVID brought. It brought the understanding that big corporations have to be flexible, have to be relevant, have to be open for others in order to stay relevant. And in order to make it, there is a need to change the DNA, not only of the top management of the company, the board and the C-level, but also the mid-level management. People now realize more than before that if they will not be open and collaborate with those third parties, they will lose their position. They will lose their job because companies have to be more efficient. They have to provide their clients with more value. All of that is only based on innovation. It's not going to happen without innovation. So now we see more and more understanding that this is a real goal and a great tool in order to implement the strategy of those big corporations.
Itai, you talk about open innovation, and you've done that for a while now. For the benefit of viewers in India, what is open innovation?
So open innovation is the understanding of the C-level, of the board members, that outside the company, they are very smart people. And I will say it even more accurate. Most of the smartest people are not working for you, are not working for the corporate. And this is statistically correct, not only for a regular company with thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of employees, but also for Facebook and Google. Statistically, most of the smartest people are working for someone else. And if that's the case, and that's the case, let's collaborate with those else, with those third parties. So really the key element here is partnering with smart people outside the company, third parties like startupists, like other companies, like academy. So the key issue is partnering, partnering, partnering. And if a big corporation is only dealing with itself internally, they don't have this muscle, this capability of partnering. And this is a huge risk for the future of the company, for the future success of the company. This is something that decision makers, board members, C-level have to take into consideration and put effort into changing the mindset of the company, its DNA, making it more open for others to partner with, and be attractive, magnet those third parties so they would love to work with the big corporate, and also make the employees open for such partnerships. And it's not simple, but you see that big corporation that really understand it deeply, the value of that, they succeed more. So that's really the key.
As you said, it's not easy. I suppose the fundamental problem is, as far as startups is concerned, they're very fearful of losing on their big ticket idea. And with standard established corporations, they don't want to get other people hands on their intellectual property. How do you then create the atmosphere of collaboration? Because trust is an important factor here.
I agree. So trust is super important. And after a big corporation has a success story with a startup, it better publish it and let everyone know about it. So other startups would love to come as well. In most cases, the big corporation, when they have a level of integrity, they're not here to copy others' IP or to steal it. That's not the case. When it's 10,000 employees and more, or even thousands of employees and more, such companies have a lot in their mind to do, a lot of tasks in their R&D department. In 99% of the cases, they're not here to steal something. And they understand, and I hope they will understand it more, that it doesn't worth for them to put effort into stealing someone's IP. They should put their effort into collaboration, into partnering, into building a relationship with this startup that can help them to be better when they compete with their competitors. So again, if there are big corporations that have no integrity, then no one would love to work with them. I mean, the startup ecosystem is so relatively small. Everyone is speaking to everyone. Everyone is sharing with everyone. If an entrepreneur meets a big corporation that is here in order to steal IP of startups, this rumor will spread around in days. And no entrepreneur, no high quality entrepreneur would love to work with such a big corporation. So I think the big corporations need to understand that they're not here to steal something, but you can steal once, you can steal twice. Because when you steal once, everyone would know about it. You'll not have a second chance. It doesn't work. The big corporations have enough in the roadmap to implement. Put your effort on partnering, on changing the mindset, on opening your arms, on sharing. The value you'll get back from startups is going to be 10 times, 100 times more. And you see it because in Israel, we have a lot of experience. It's a relatively small country. And there's a lot of experience of big corporations innovating with Israeli startups, international corporations coming to Israel in order to innovate with Israeli startups. So we have, and I'm talking about over 500 multinationals in the size of Google, Facebook, and so on. And they come to Israel, and now we have a lot of experience that we've learned from with regard to how to do it right. And the biggest barrier, the biggest challenge of a big corporation that is looking into partnering with startup is the internal employees' level of engagement. Their engagement with the open innovation process, their engagement with the partnership with the startup. This is the challenge. And this is something that big corporations succeed, but they succeed only when there is a top level commitment. Open innovation is a top down. If you don't have a strong commitment from the C-level, from the owners, from the board members, it's not going to happen. But if the board make a decision to implement innovation, to invest in open innovation, to open the corporate arms for entrepreneurs to come, to educate, provide education to employees with regard to how to do it right, with regard to the value, with regard to the urgency of such partnerships with startups, it's going to succeed. And then IP issues and other obstacles will not be issue anymore.
You know, for a country of India's magnitude and scale, we are 130 million people, Itai. I want to know, how can collaboration and innovation perhaps solve large-scale problems? And I want to focus about, let's say, healthcare sector for now, because that's one of the primary focuses during the COVID time. How can big corporations in India specifically, or in any large country, in developing country, can now innovate with small scale startups to change the healthcare ecosystem for that matter?
So that's what I usually say to big corporations and to governments. You don't know everything. I mean, you don't know everything. And everyone, I don't know everything, you might know, but most of the people don't really know everything. And also big corporations, they don't know everything. And I think the challenge, and it's a challenge for any government, any big corporation, is to really learn what's going out there and send signals to the global ecosystem, telling them what are your challenges, and make them get back to you and provide you with their solutions. So you'll be able, as a corporate, to be able to select which solutions can provide you with the value, which solutions are already here to implement, and it doesn't make sense for the corporate to start innovating it now internally. The big corporations have enough to do. And when they see something which is already 90% done and relevant to them, use it. Use it. It doesn't make sense to now hire more and more engineers to develop it, and then in terms of time to market, you'll have a final product, a ready-to-market product in 2 or 3 years. It doesn't make sense. It is time, it is money, resources, effort. Put your effort in something else, but not developing something which already exists. So this is something which is, in terms of efficiency, it makes much more sense to use something which is already here to implement. And even a huge country like India, when you're talking now about healthcare, you want to have the solutions now, not in 3 years from now, right? And I can tell you that I think it was really a couple of, or three, maybe 3 weeks ago, an innovation minister, one of the governments in the globe, has messaged me on WhatsApp and asked me, I heard that there is something that the health ministry in Israel implemented, a unique technology, a unique application with regard to the COVID. We are considering developing internally, but we heard that you already have it. Can you please put me in touch with the one who is in charge of this development? I told him, yes, of course. In less than 1 hour, they were speaking with each other. And this minister realized that it doesn't make sense to put money now into something which already has been developed. Pay for this usage, pay in order to use it, and that's all. Pay a license fee, and that's all. And you use it, you have it. Put your efforts in something that was not already developed, into something new. So this is really, I usually don't really understand the state of mind of those corporations and governments that are looking into developing something which already exists. Doesn't make sense. And I always tell people are very smart around the world. And even when I'm talking to Israeli government decision makers, to Israeli corporations, I always tell them, learn from others' experience. There are very smart people around the world. You don't know everything. Learn from them. And this is the key. Be open and be modest. We don't know everything.
Well, absolutely. You talked about Israel government and how Israel innovators perhaps have used this as an opportunity to come up with better products. I want to know from you, and going back to what you previously said, that the kind of paradigm shift that we have seen in last 1 year, we were hoping to see that in many years to come, but that happened in 1 year's time. What is the shift that you have seen in the Israel industry in last 1 year?
In the last 1 year, what I see is big corporations that were really sleeping and were only dealing with themselves internally are acting like crazy, very fast. I mean, just to look what's out there and implement. And they're in stress mode because they really understand that during the COVID, there were corporations that were doing a lot of innovation activity below the radar. And now, when in Israel, we are in the post-COVID, at least for now. It looks like it's behind us because we were vaccinated and all that. But at least now, it looks like many big corporations during the year of pandemic were preparing a lot of innovation below the radar and implementing a lot of technologies. So other big corporations, their competitors, are now in stress because they understand that those that have implemented technology during the last year now have a huge gap. And they will really beat them in terms of competition. They will win them. So you see now almost all big corporations innovating like crazy. And you see startupists raising a lot of funds and moving very fast. And things are really moving fast and faster than before in the area of corporations and also in the domain of startups. And there is a lot of available funds in Israel now for startupists in the early stage and also in the growth stage. And you see really big corporations doing it right. And I can tell you, I can give you a kind of example. In Israel, in 2018, there's been a law that requires in each and every board of a bank to have at least one board member who is specialized in innovation and technology. It is mandatory by law. And the idea behind it, personally, I think it's a very smart idea. It's to bring this innovation and technology importance to the table of the board. So the board members would be able to understand the changes and the fast changes in the world in terms of technology and innovation. A year later, MIT has created a research where they tested big corporations in the States, and their understanding was that when you have 3 board members who are specializing in innovation and technology, the bottom line performance of the big corporation is better than its competitors. And now in 2021, you see more and more big corporations doing it. Instead of nominating a board member who is not relevant to the changes in this world, people who are great people, but they have no clue about technology and innovation. Now you see more and more young people in the boards, more relevant, those that are more connected to innovation in the board, which is very important, because if you want to have a change, a fast change, you have to have this deep understanding of importance of innovation in the top level, in the C-level, in the board member, in the board table. This is really the change, and this is a minor change with a huge impact. So it is either going to be by law, if your government is able to do it fast, and if not, the private sector will do it, because this will help minimizing bureaucracy, making things faster, and this is a part of the game, an important part of the game. Be fast. And I know big corporations are slow, but no, they don't have this option anymore. They have to be fast. They have to respond fastly to the startups, and they have to implement fast, and they have to pay fast to the startups, and they have to move like a startup. It's difficult, but it is possible.
Globally, Itai, and that's where I want to get your views in. Globally, what sort of structural change have you seen as far as the industry, innovation industry is concerned, and your understanding of the accelerated change that we have seen post-COVID? What are the prominent changes that you've seen in the innovation industry globally? Trends that perhaps were not possible until 2 years back?
You see more and more technologies that help big corporations to be efficient. Everyone is now looking to efficiency. Even if they don't say it loud and clear and publicly, share the fact that they have to be more efficient. But you see more and more technologies that are allowing those corporations to be more efficient in terms of back office and in terms of customer service. Every NLP, of course, you see all those technologies that allow big corporations to provide a better service and a more efficient service are exactly those areas where you see a lot of technologies growing. You also see a lot of new technologies in terms of remote healthcare, for example. In the food technologies, in the agriculture, you see many technologies in Israel and globally. And the nice thing when you're dealing with the startups ecosystem is that they shift their efforts to where they see the challenge. So when big corporations are sharing their challenges, entrepreneurs are pivoting their startups to solve those challenges. So the thing is to create this dialogue between big corporations and startups. So one is telling what are its challenges, the big corporations, and the other side, the startupists, are putting all their efforts in order to solve those challenges. So that's exactly the match. That's the opportunity, and you see a lot of new technologies in this area. By the way, you see also technologies from Homeland Security pivoting to COVID, to fight COVID. For example, Homeland Security technologies are based on many cameras, video cameras. So now you can analyze the photos and the videos in order to provide value for to identify sick people or people with COVID and so on. So, and in order also to make sure that big places like airports, public places like hotels and so on are safe from COVID. So you use the technologies from Homeland Security in order to create safe zones clean from COVID. So that's another thing. So you see really a lot of trends nowadays, but I think again the major issue is to open the big corporations' arms to magnet startups. It would make the corporations learn and understand what are the trends and really react fast. Because big corporations can always order strategic work from one of the consulting companies around the world, all those McKinsey's big corporations, and ask them, please provide us with an analytics about the trends of technologies around the world in our domain. For such a strategic company, it would take months or maybe a year to provide you back with their learnings. A year or months or a lot of time. It's a lot of time for a big corporation these days. They don't have this time. So the only way to really be have the understanding on real time about the trends is to do open innovation, is to really put efforts into that, and then you always know what are the trends in real time, not a year from now, and then you're able to react.
Right. So open innovation is the mantra going forward. Itai, thanks very much. Thank you so much for your time. And
Thank you very much. It was great.